He said to the officer, "I'm with the FBI." The other man simply replied, "I don't care." 10 minutes later, guess who was in handcuffs? It was just turning dusk when Malik Townsend saw red and blue lights flash in his rearview mirror. It was 6:42 p.m., with the golden light of day's end still clinging to the rooftops in Denverte County, Virginia. That fleeting moment known as the golden hour, beautiful, gentle, but deceptive in its sense of calm. Kids were still riding their bikes and laughing on the sidewalks, while sprinklers ticked rhythmically across neatly kept lawns. It looked like a picture of peace. But Malik, he just wanted to go home. He had left Norfolk nearly 2 hours earlier, after a long day working with the Interagency Task Force, meetings, reports, and lukewarm coffee. No guns, no chases, nothing dangerous. Just another routine day behind a desk. Now he was driving down a quiet road, less than 20 minutes from home. His black Dodge Charger cruised through the neighborhood at just over 28 miles per hour. No music, no phone, just the soft hum of the tires and the low whisper of the AC. Until a police SUV appeared behind him, no siren, just flashing lights, and closed in fast. Malik sighed, tapped his turn signal, and pulled over. It wasn't his first time being stopped, but it never felt routine. Not for someone like him, not in a place like this. He turned off the engine and rolled the driver's window halfway down, both hands on the wheel. Deliberate, obvious, slow, every movement intentional. The SUV door opened, the officer stepped out. White male, stocky build, about 6 feet tall, wearing dark sunglasses even though the sun was setting. His right hand hovered near his holster, almost like a warning. "I'm ready." No greeting, no name, no hint of friendliness. He approached like he was preparing for a confrontation. Then came the first question. "You live around here?" Malik didn't turn his head, just looked straight ahead, calm. "And live here." The officer tilted his head, eyes narrowing with suspicion. "License and registration." Malik nodded slightly. "My wallet's in the jacket on the passenger seat. Registration's in the glove box. I'm going to reach..." Slowly. The officer didn't respond, just stared. Malik kept his breathing steady, his movements firm but smooth. He retrieved the wallet, then the registration, and placed both on the dashboard before handing them over. "Can you tell me why I was pulled over?" he asked, his gaze steady. The officer glanced at the documents, but didn't take them. "Have you ever been in a situation where every move you make feels scrutinized? Like you're balancing on a razor-thin line. In those moments, the way you speak, every breath, every word, can shift everything. Leave a comment if you've ever experienced something like this, or imagine, if you were Malik, what would you do?" "You were creeping through the neighborhood like you were casing the place," the officer said, loaded with implication. "Casing?" Malik furrowed his brow, unsure if he heard right. "Yeah, driving slow, looking at houses. Somebody called it in." He said it again, as if it were a legitimate crime. Malik blinked, stunned. "I was going 28 miles an hour. I'm just trying to get home." "Got anything in the car I should know about?" The silence that followed stretched tight. Malik stared back at him, silent. "You hiding something? Any reason you seem nervous?" The officer stepped back slightly, still keeping a hand near his gun. Malik almost laughed. Not out of humor, but exhaustion. "I'm not nervous. I'm exhausted. I've been working since 7 this morning. I just want to go home." "Step out of the vehicle." Malik froze. "On what grounds?" "I gave you an order." The air thickened instantly. Malik took a deep breath, eyes locked on the officer. Things were unraveling too quickly. "Officer," he said, moving slowly toward the passenger seat, "I'm a federal agent. My FBI credentials are in my wallet. If you give me a second, I don't care who you are. Step out. Now." That sentence hit Malik like a punch, not for its volume, but for its coldness. The denial was so sharp, it left no doubt. This wasn't about procedure anymore. This was about prejudice. Malik opened his wallet and held it up to the window. His FBI badge and ID caught the fading light of sunset. Special Agent Malik Townsend, Norfolk office. I'm not a threat, I just want to get home. But the officer didn't even glance at the badge. Didn't blink. I've got a non-compliant subject, he said into his radio. Claims to be FBI. Requesting backup. Malik clenched his jaw. Not out of anger, but restraint. This wasn't a misunderstanding anymore. This was intentional. He hadn't even spoken when the officer's hand inched closer to his belt. Malik knew exactly what that meant. He didn't move. Didn't blink. His badge still raised to eye level. Sir, Malik said, voice steady. You're making a serious mistake. The officer's nameplate read Ellison, a patrol cop, not a rookie but far from command, the kind who knows just enough to act like he has power, but not enough to recognize when he's overstepping. I won't say it again, Ellison barked. Step out of the car, hands where I can see them. Malik locked eyes with him, unwavering. I've identified myself. You still haven't told me what I did wrong. And you haven't even looked at my credentials. Ellison's jaw twitched. He hated that tone, calm, clear, confident, as if Malik knew the law better than he did. You think flashing some fake badge gives you the right to talk down to me? Malik didn't respond. He unbuckled his seatbelt, opened the door, and stepped out, both hands raised. I'm cooperating, he said firmly, but listen closely. I am not resisting. I am not a threat, and you need to call your supervisor immediately. In that moment, who was really in control? The one holding the gun or the one holding his ground? The one barking orders or the one who understood the consequences of every move? What do you think? If you were Malik, would you keep your composure or push back? Drop a comment with your thoughts. These situations aren't just stories sometimes. They're someone's reality. Ellison stepped forward and shoved Malik in the left shoulder. Not hard enough to knock him down, but more than enough to send a clear message. This wasn't about safety. This wasn't about procedure. This was about power, about dominance, about humiliation. Malik didn't flinch, didn't step back, didn't react. He stood tall, eyes steady. I'm not warning you as a civilian, Malik said, his voice low and cold, like steel radiating off hot pavement. I'm warning you as a federal agent. Every second of this incident will be reviewed, every action, every word. Ellison's breathing quickened, his chest rising like a boxer in his corner. He took a step closer. You threatening me? He snapped. No, Malik said. That's not a threat, it's a warning. The air went still for a beat. Then Ellison spun Malik around and yanked his arms back. Malik didn't resist. Not because he was weak, because he knew real strength is knowing when not to fight. Ellison slapped on the cuffs, the first one biting into Malik's right wrist. And that's when the eyes of the neighborhood turned. A woman watering her plants across the street froze, hose still running. A man walking his dog stopped mid-step, eyes tense. Phones came out. A teenager sitting on his porch raised his camera and started recording. Malik noticed but said nothing. He simply let the lens capture it all. I want to make this very clear for everyone watching, Malik said, loud enough for the street to hear. I am Special Agent Malik Townsend with the FBI. This detainment is unlawful. I am not resisting. This officer is violating protocol. Keep talking, Ellison muttered. Let's see how far that story gets when you're sitting in the back of my cruiser. Right then, Ellison's radio crackled. Back up en route. ETA 2 minutes. He spun Malik again, pressing him hard against the hood. The force was unnecessary but deliberate. I don't care who you say you are. You don't belong here. And if you're lying, Ellison leaned in, voice like venom through gritted teeth. You'll pay for it. Malik wasn't afraid. Not a single movement from his body suggested panic. Only fire. Cold, controlled fire. Burning behind his eyes. You don't get to decide who belongs where, he said clearly. That badge doesn't give you the right to dishonor mine. Ellison didn't reply. He clicked the second cuff shut. Tight, deliberate, cold, like his silence. Malik looked up and took a long breath. The street was eerily silent now. Even the cicadas had stopped singing. It was as if everything had gone still, holding its breath for what was about to happen. Then, from around the corner, flashing lights appeared. A police cruiser sped toward them. Then another. The screech of tires against pavement was unmistakable. The door of the lead car swung open. A woman stepped out, tall, lean, around 45, dark brown hair pulled into a tight bun. Her eyes were sharp as blades, the kind that belonged to someone used to giving orders. Lieutenant Karina Voss. From the moment she stepped out of the vehicle, Lieutenant Voss took in the entire scene in an instant. A black man, calm, handcuffed, stood beside a sleek black Dodge Charger. A white officer, breathing heavily, posturing like he was still asserting dominance, stood nearby, adrenaline still visible in his eyes. On both sides of the street, neighbors watched, phones raised, eyes locked. "Status report," Voss said, voice steady and sharp. Ellison straightened his back, speaking louder than necessary. Subject was acting suspicious, claimed to be FBI but refused to exit the vehicle when ordered. Non-compliant. Voss said nothing. She just turned to Malik, the kind of look that came from someone who'd seen this exact scene too many times before. She observed the composure, the steady breathing, the way he hadn't said a single word, an intentional silence that spoke volumes. Then she saw the badge wallet lying on the roof of the car. She walked over, picked it up, opened it. It took 2 seconds, just enough for her eyes to narrow, her head to pull back slightly. "Exercise at your Nikamian Hansen?" she asked, and this time her tone had shifted. Recognition. Awareness. Malik gave a single, measured nod. "Yes, ma'am." Ellison's face twisted, as if the name had slapped him. "What's going on?" Voss closed the badge wallet and gripped it tightly in her hand. Her eyes locked on Ellison. "You just cuffed a federal agent? And I wasn't complying with my orders. Driving slowly, looking at houses. Someone called it in. I was following protocol." "Protocol?" Voss repeated, her tone cold and cutting. "What part of the protocol tells you to ignore ID and cuff someone without verifying who they are?" Ellison opened his mouth, but no words came out. Voss turned to Malik. "Agent Townsend, are you hurt?" "No," Malik replied, "just insulted." She gave a firm nod. "I'll have those cuffs removed immediately. I sincerely apologize for what's happened." Then she turned. "Officer Vega, uncuff him." A younger officer stepped forward, hesitant at first, but then did as instructed. The cuffs popped open. Malik rotated his wrists. Red marks were already forming. Voss glanced at his waistband. "Are you armed?" "I'm off duty. No weapon on me." She nodded, processing the details like someone who had written hundreds of misconduct reports. Ellison interjected, voice trying to regain authority. "Lieutenant, with all due respect," he didn't identify clearly. He was vague. "I was responding to a 911 call." "Was that vehicle reported stolen?" Voss pressed. "Now, did he behave in a threatening manner?" "No," Ellison muttered. "Did he resist?" Ellison hesitated. "He had an attitude." Voss raised an eyebrow. "Attitude?" The word hung in the air, dense and sharp. Silence. "I want to see your body cam footage now. Bring it here." "It's in the cruiser," Ellison said, barely audible. "Then go get it." Ellison turned and trudged back toward the patrol car. Malik finally stepped closer to Voss and spoke in a low voice. "Just for her. You just saved him from himself. Was one step away from creating a memory that would never go away." Voss nodded. "I've seen that look before, in both the good and the bad. But this wasn't law enforcement, this was ego." Malik looked around. The neighbors were still there, some whispering, some silent. The teenage boy was still filming, camera never lowered. Malik didn't feel humiliated. He didn't hang his head. He didn't need to defend himself. He was fully aware of what had almost happened and, more importantly, of who would have been blamed if it had. But before Ellison returned, Malik quietly walked back toward his car, because from this moment forward, it wasn't about power anymore. It was about the truth. Ellison approached, holding out the body cam like it was a trophy, as if it would prove he was right. Voss said nothing. She just held out her hand. Ellison hesitated for a second, then handed it over. Voss hit play. No one spoke. The officers nearby leaned in, visibly uneasy, shifting in the late afternoon heat. The sun was nearly gone behind the rooftops, leaving behind a dull orange smear across the sky. But the street remained lit, partly from the patrol cars' flashing lights, partly from the cold, judgmental glow of the phones still recording. The footage was crystal clear. Malik's voice came through, calm, professional. "Do you live around here?" "I do. My wallet's in the jacket, registration's in the glove box." "Officer, I'm a federal agent, FBI. I've identified myself." "You haven't told me what I did wrong." As the video played, Voss's expression slowly changed. Her jaw tightened, her brow furrowed. No need for more questions, no need for analysis. Malik stood a few steps away, arms folded, not watching the footage, but watching the people. He didn't need to prove anything to the camera. Voss hit the stop button. She handed the body cam back to Ellison. "You violated protocol," she said, her tone calm but ice cold. "You escalated a situation for no valid reason. You ignored a legitimate ID, and you unlawfully detained a federal agent." Ellison shifted from foot to foot, his face flushed red. "Lieutenant, with all due respect, the guy had an attitude. He challenged me. It wasn't the usual traffic stop. He had an attitude." Voss didn't raise her voice, but every word sliced through the air like a blade. "Did it ever occur to you that that attitude came from being stopped in his own neighborhood because he was driving too slowly?" Ellison opened his mouth to respond, but Voss's look shut him down. Instantly, "That's enough. I'm filing an official report with Internal Affairs. Effective immediately. You're suspended pending investigation." "You're serious? You're going to bury this? Bury it?" Voss shot back, her eyes flashing. "You're surrounded by phones filming every second. I have body cam footage that confirms what they saw. You think I'm going to pretend none of this happened?" Ellison froze. For him, being held publicly accountable was foreign territory. But for Malik, this was reality. This was what the first step toward justice looked like. Voss stepped in close, face to face, nearly chest to chest. "You just handcuffed a federal agent who did nothing wrong. You think that badge makes you untouchable? It doesn't. It doesn't give you immunity, and it sure as hell doesn't give you the right to rewrite the law to suit your emotions." Malik looked down at his wrists, still red, still sore. "I don't want an apology," he said. "I want accountability." Voss nodded slowly. "And you're about to get it." Just then, the teenager from the porch stepped forward, still holding his phone. "You got it all?" Malik asked. The boy nodded. "Every second." "Hold on to it," Malik said, his voice low but firm. The boy swallowed hard, his eyes fixed on the man he'd probably never forget. "You all right, Agent?" someone asked. Malik didn't answer right away. He looked over at Ellison, now standing frozen like a statue. No confidence, no voice. In less than 20 minutes, his power had slipped away, and he didn't even understand how. Then Malik turned his gaze to the teenager, still holding up the phone. "I will be," he replied. Ellison stared down at his radio like he hoped it might somehow save him. But it wouldn't. "Vega," Voss called out, her voice firm and unwavering. "Detain Officer Ellison. By the book. Cuff him. Read him his Miranda rights, same as anyone else." The atmosphere snapped tight. Even the birds had gone silent. Officer Vega blinked. "You want me to—" "You heard me," Voss said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it left no room for debate. Ellison went pale. "What? You're arresting me? You assaulted a federal agent and falsified a report. That's not just a procedural violation. That's a criminal offense." Malik said nothing. He didn't need to. As Vega slowly turned Ellison around and cuffed him, Malik looked away, not out of pity, but because justice isn't about watching someone fall. It's about preventing them from dragging others down with them. The street remained silent, but it felt like the whole block was holding its breath. The handcuffs clicked, louder than they should have in the stillness. No shouting, no resistance, just shock. A man who couldn't believe This was happening to him. Voss didn't gloat. She didn't smile. Her demeanor stayed professional. Put him in the car. I'll write up the charges. Vega nodded, still visibly rattled by the command. Malik stepped toward his car, rubbing his wrist again. The red marks were still there. He leaned gently against the door, eyes drifting across the street. The woman with the garden hose still hadn't moved, frozen in place. The man walking his dog now had his phone out, staring at the scene. This wasn't just a bad traffic stop anymore. It had become a moment, a reckoning, a truth made visible. Voss walked over to Malik, her hands clasped behind her back, the stance of someone who knows when it's time to bow their head. I'm sorry, Agent Townsend, no excuses. This should never have happened. Malik nodded, slow and firm. I appreciate the apology, but don't fool yourself into thinking this is rare. Voss didn't flinch. It's not rare. But today, people saw it, and that matters. They stood there in the fading light of day, no longer tense, but the residue of it lingered like heat after a fire dies out. Would you prefer to file through internal affairs or go directly through the bureau? Voss asked. I'll go through the bureau, Malik replied, but I want full access to all recorded footage. Voss nodded. You'll have it. Yours, mine, everything? It's already backed up, she added, her tone resolute. Malik nodded again, then tilted his head slightly. May I see the clip? From your perspective. Voss hesitated for a beat, then tapped her chest-mount camera. The small screen lit up between them. There he was, himself, sitting in the driver's seat, calm, in control, presenting his ID, never losing it, even as Ellison's voice grew louder, more threatening. Officer, I'm a federal agent. I don't care who you are. Step out of the vehicle. Now, you're making a mistake. Raise your hands where I can see them. Malik watched the footage like he was observing a different version of himself through one-way glass. A man who didn't yell, didn't flinch, didn't posture, even as every muscle in his body wanted to explode. Then came the sound of the cuffs. Click, click. Malik closed his eyes for a moment. One deep breath, as if exhaling the last remnants still caught in his chest. Could you send me that clip? He asked. Voss nodded. I've already sent it. Then a voice came from behind them. You were so calm, sir. Malik turned. It was Jaden, the teenage boy, probably around 16, still holding his phone, still recording. He didn't yell, didn't fight back, didn't seem scared. You shouldn't have to do that to stay alive, Malik replied, his voice not angry, just honest. Jaden lowered his head slowly. If it were me, I don't think I could have stayed that calm. Malik stepped closer. His voice didn't rise, but it carried weight. You shouldn't have to prove you're calm just to survive. That's not law. That's survival. There was a pause. Then he continued slowly. But the truth is, sometimes to survive you have to stay silent. Jaden nodded. But in his eyes was something else. Fear. Admiration. And a flicker of quiet rage. What's your name? Malik asked. Jaden. Jaden? Hold on to that video. Not for me. For you. Jaden's eyes widened, seeing for the first time a man who wasn't just a victim, but someone passing power forward. Yes, sir. Malik returned to his car. He placed his hand on the roof, as if grounding himself in something solid, something real in a world that had just trembled. But as he reached for the door handle, Voss called out. Made it. Townsend, he turned, slowly, eyebrows slightly raised. This time she didn't step closer. She stood by the patrol car's hood, voice clear, no hesitation. Before you go, I need your official statement. Would you prefer to give it now or come to the station? Malik looked down the street. Some neighbors had started heading back inside, but a few still watched. Jaden remained by the curb, thumb flicking across his screen, probably uploading the footage. I'll come to the station tomorrow, Malik said, his eyes still scanning the quiet scene. But right now I just want to go home, go home. 2 simple words, yet sometimes an entire journey. What do you think? In today's world where a badge no longer guarantees protection, and silence can become a means of survival, what truly delivers justice? Share your thoughts, because somewhere out there someone may need your voice. to feel seen, to feel heard, to feel safe. Voss nodded. No argument, no denial. I understand. Malik turned back to the charger, opened the door. But before getting in, he paused, glancing back. You think anything will actually happen to him? Voss didn't answer right away. She folded her arms, looking him straight in the eye. I can't promise punishment, she said, but tonight I can promise this, the truth. And sometimes accountability starts right there. Malik considered that. It wasn't satisfaction, but it was truth. And he could live with that. He got behind the wheel. Voss stepped closer and added, for what it's worth, thank you for staying calm, for setting a higher standard than the one who should have known better. Malik simply nodded. I didn't do it for him. He closed the door, started the engine, then slowly pulled away from the curb. The sun had disappeared behind the rooftops. One by one, the streetlights came on, blinking, then steady. Malik didn't rush. He rolled the window down, letting the night air soothe the sting on his wrists. He drove slowly, heading back to Petersburg, his hands sore but his mind sharper than ever. Behind him, Voss stood watching until the car faded from view. She turned back. Ellison was sitting in Vega's patrol car, his face flushed, stunned, like he had just realized something his entire career had never forced him to confront. A badge does not grant immunity from accountability. Voss walked up to the door, articulating every word with clarity. You're being charged with unlawful detention, excessive use of force, and failure to follow proper identity verification procedures. Ellison's eyes widened, his mouth opened, but no sound came out. Come on, Karina, you're not seriously charging me, are you? Voss looked at him, her gaze unwavering. You think you're above the law? I was just reacting to behavior. I thought he was lying. No, you didn't think anything, she snapped. You didn't stop, you didn't check, you didn't even look at his ID, because you didn't care about the truth. You only cared about control. Ellison let out a bitter laugh. Oh no, I'm the bad guy. No, she replied. You're just someone who thought the law was for everyone else. She stepped back and tapped on the window. Vega, take him in. As the patrol car rolled away, a few neighbors began to clap. Just 2 or 3, slow, quiet, but sincere. Not because someone got arrested, but because for the first time someone saw and acted. Jaden walked up beside Voss, eyes tracking the police car as it disappeared. Do you think they'll take his badge? He asked. Voss looked down at him. That depends on who's watching. Jaden nodded, still clutching his phone tightly. They're watching now, he said quietly. Voss didn't respond. She just gave a single nod, then quietly returned to her own car. The next morning, Malik's inbox was full. Emails from bureau officials, a few reporters, and internal affairs. Each message like a wave, carrying the same signal. You were seen. And the truth was recorded. People were reaching out to Malik. They wanted statements, quotes, viral sound bites, but Malik didn't respond immediately. Instead, he sat alone at his kitchen table, holding a cup of black coffee. No sugar, no cream, just the way he faced everything, straight, no softeners. His eyes locked on the screen. Aitan's video. He played it over and over. Every second, every expression, every word. Ellison shouting, Malik's steady voice, unshaken. Boss, walking in, not just to observe but to stop it. No delay, no deflection. She stopped it. He shut off the screen, sat still, looked out the window where morning sun spilled across the summer leaves. No cheering, no applause. But justice sometimes doesn't need to be loud. It just needs someone to show up and do the right thing. And if you're watching this video and thinking, could have been me, you're not wrong. Situations like this happen every day. In places without cameras, without a Lieutenant Voss, without anyone watching. But what truly brings change, real change, is when people are held accountable, no matter what uniform they wear or title they carry. Because respect doesn't come from a badge. It comes from how you wear that badge and whether you live by what it stands for. And next time, when someone thinks their power gives them the right to act without question, remind them, real power never needs to be proven through force. If this story resonated with you, like to spread it, share so others can see it, and subscribe for more real stories, moments from life worth reflecting on. Because sometimes the only thing standing between injustice and justice is the eyes of someone who's watching, that someone might be you.